as many spin overs as seam at home, and the last 26 tests in Sri Lanka have all produced positive results. Wickets since the start of 2015 in tests in Sri Lanka, 68% to spin and 32% to seam. So, Sangha, I suppose, though, for you, this is all very normal because you've grown up in these conditions.
Well, it's strange that you say that, Keezy, because I grew up in Kandy where it was raining or drizzling almost 5 days a week when I was growing up. And we had a curator who had grown up in England. So he used to leave a lot of green grass on the pitches. So I actually grew up playing pace much more than I did spin. And if you came to Kandy and played at the school I went to on a turf pitch, it was not really the spinners that did a lot of the damage. But around the country, especially in first-class cricket, you're absolutely right. A lot of spin, especially now, much more than it used to be prevalent in my time. A lot of spin now, a lot of turn, a lot of matches, even at first-class level, finishing early. So you will face a lot of spin historically with Murali, with Upul Chandana, with Rangana Hera, all the hosts of spinners, Ruan Kalpage that we've had, Ajit De Silva in the old days, all of them learned how to bowl on these pitches and really exploit the conditions. So, yep, you'll have to get your mind right and adept at playing spin.
I want to just have a look back at one of your knocks as well, though. The one thing that you must have to be able to do when you're playing spin well is that ability to play the ball under your eyes. And if you see that, how do you learn that? How do you teach someone how to do that?
Well, one of the important things I always look for in terms of a player that plays spin well is his ability to hit against the turn. Usually if a spinner is turning the ball into you, you always have, especially on a ragging surface, you'll have that extra cover gap, and spinners will try and continuously goad you into trying to play through that gap, hopefully sneak one through bat and pad. But the best batsmen, like you say, wait for that over-pitched ball, or they use their feet, get to that pitch, and will exploit these gaps. And hitting against the spin and exploiting those gaps continuously really puts pressure back on the spinners. One of the other things, Keezy, that you would really have to do is to work the ball into gaps and run singles. Whether you're going to sweep to do that, hard or soft, whether you're going to be on that back foot with soft hands, turning the ball towards the gaps on the leg side. It all starts from the absolute confidence you have in your front foot and back foot defense. That's where spin starts. Whether you play just in front of your pad, well out in front of your pad, slightly closer to your pad, it doesn't matter. In your mind, you have to be absolutely confident as a batsman of your defense. And when you do play that defense, you've got to project that confidence onto the bowler, saying, try and get through this defense. You do that more often than not, you'll have the bowler changing trajectory, changing pace, changing length, and really trying to beat that defense. It presents you with attacking opportunities in terms of scoring runs. If their field is up, try and maneuver that field. Even in Test cricket, take a calculated risk. Don't spend too much time facing deliveries from one end. Whether you hit through the field or over the field, either way, it's about reversing pressure, being in control, and making sure you're very clear in your decision-making process.
Now, so was it struggled against spin out there in the early days when you were out there? Was it all just because of Murali or what?
I mean, you're going from Sangha, one of the greatest batsmen of all time, at his home venue, smashing us all over the place, to our struggles against spin. Let me guess. So here we go. Against one of the greatest bowlers there's ever been, Murali, spinning it both ways on an absolute Bunsen at Gaul. It was incredibly difficult, Rob. You know that. This bloke was an absolute genius. But your general point is a good one. We, as English players of our era, were not brought up on a diet of spin. We were backing across against little dibbly-dobbly seamers. We were playing on green tops. So this was so alien to us, playing against something like that. That's why when we went out there, we got Graham Thorpe to absolutely rough up the nets so that when we got in the middle, it wasn't as bad as the nets. But the young cricketer nowadays, the modern cricketer, has been out on Lions tours, has been out on academy tours, has done a lot of work. I mean, these lads like Root and Bairstow, here's some footage of them a few years ago. This was when they were on their Lions Tour 2011, 12 in Sri Lanka. You know, they do so much more work. They're so much better prepared. Look at these pitches. Look what they're playing against. So that when they go into Gaul, Johnny Bairstow, Joe Root, Chris Wokes, all these lads have it in their locker already, the shots and the game plan that Kumar Sangakkara has spoken so eloquently about.
I always think Sanga as well. I always remember last year, or maybe 2 years ago it was, obviously, you and I were commentating and Zach Crawley was playing. And I remember sort of he got out, I think, to a leg spinner. And I grabbed you and I said, do you mind having a quick word with Zach? And you spoke about, as a tall batsman, how easier it is to pick line and length. Can you remember what you said?
Yeah, you know, a lot of batsmen have difference, you know, have a difference in terms of how they set up. And a lot of them try to stand a little bit too tall. And if you're a taller person, sometimes it's advisable to kind of spread your feet a little bit further apart, drop your center of gravity down, because sometimes looking up at a delivery, you tend to pick up length and variation in terms of seam if you're watching the seam or the hand a little bit better than if you're looking, you know, down at someone from such a great height. And it also allows you the ability to push off that front foot to get to that back foot the moment you see a difference in length. So it kind of helps you to have that your eye level slightly lower down than you would normally standing up to pace. At the same time, it also is important that you keep your head and your eye level quite static and level, so that you don't miss, you know, a yard here or a yard there, because that's all it takes, a millisecond really, to lose sight of that trajectory and flight, and then of course misread the length. And that's absolutely crucial in playing spin. But for Zach, he's got the height, the ability to stretch that front foot forward or push really far back. Exciting player, really, ever since, you know, that day we watched him bat.